Manaway to Al, good morning, and how are you, faithful? Captain Niner coming to you on February 11th, 2025, with your Captain and Coffee morning report. I do still have my coffee this morning. It's a little watered down at this point, but hey, we're still having our coffee. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get into the news today. I hear a lot of people who are talking about they want to kind of. Why is this not bringing up both cameras? I have no idea why. What are you doing? What are we doing here, buddy? Okay. All right. I don't understand what's going on with that. Anyways, I see a lot of people who are down on Jed and Kyle and Lynch in general, or this is referring more to Kyle and John, where basically they kind of want them gone. Well, the owner of the San Francisco 49ers, the principal owner, I guess you call him, Jed York, has come out and said there is so much work to do before we get to that point, addressing, getting rid of those two. Obviously, it started at the end of the season to get this thing ready and get this thing back right and get this thing back on track. There's a whole lot of things in that sentence. There's no one that I respect more and trust more than John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan to get us back on track. Basically, he is saying they're not going anywhere. Um, Again, we still don't know. We've never been told how long those contracts, the extensions that they signed were for. Um, but it should be telling that a lot of the contracts that we're seeing for guys the last couple of years have been 2 to 3 years, which means to me means almost like we've got 2 years left on this if it doesn't get out of hand. You know what I mean? What if we go, have losing seasons the next couple of years? More than likely in 2 years, that's when I would see it. Minus a complete shutdown of, with them two losing the locker room and all that kind of stuff, which, by the way, they haven't done. I know people have tried to talk about it, how they've lost the locker room. They haven't. People are still there. They're still for Kyle and everything like that. But yeah, so and people have also talked about how Jed doesn't want to spend money on this team. Jed has spent money on this team. Look at what he spent on coaching this offseason. He made Robert Saleh the highest paid defensive coordinator, maybe even coordinator, depending on how much Chip Kelly's getting paid. One of the two of them is going to be the highest paid coordinator in the NFL. We just don't know because usually coordinator contracts aren't released. I'm yawning again. Maybe I need more coffee. Coffee break. All right. So you can't say he hasn't spent money on that. Oh yeah, by the way, we're also hiring Gus Bradley. Gus Bradley is not coming cheap, no matter what. Yes, he's not going to be the DC or high up necessarily, or in charge of all that kind of stuff. But Gus Bradley is a guy that is a former head coach, former defensive coordinator, Super Bowl winning coordinator. I mean, this guy. It's going to cost money. It's going to cost money to get someone like Gus Bradley in the building. Plus, we still have other coaches. We still have to do the interview, I believe, with D'Angelo Hall. That's probably going to come at a little bit. So people saying that Jed doesn't spend money, you're not right. Sorry, you gave a ton of money to Jimmy at one point. You've given a ton of money to Trent, to CMC, to BA, Debo, Kittle, Fred, Mooney, Diamador. So you cannot say that they are not spending money. Now you could make an argument that maybe we shouldn't be paying all those guys, especially the guys like Debo and BA and stuff like that. There you have a valid argument. But you cannot say that Jed doesn't go out there and spends the money that these guys want him to in order to build this team. Again, we can argue, the discussion is whether or not some of these guys deserved that said money, yes. But saying that he is a cheapskate and won't spend on big name stuff like that, I don't think so. Yes, we haven't gone out and got the huge kind of guys that some of us want, aka like, are we going to make that move from Myles Garrett? That's a totally different kind of a thing. But that's more on like draft capital and stuff like that. Well, does Jed want to mortgage a little bit of the future for something that's going to make us better now? So again, as far as it goes with for those who wanting to get rid of Shanahan and or Lynch, I don't think it's happening. Not this season, and more than likely not for at least a season or two. Um, the fearless owner also had this to say about Mr. Brock. I know we want Brock here for a long, long time, and I believe that we will make that work. As everybody knows, that was watching yesterday, I did come across yesterday and have my report is that the negotiations have began. This never said exactly how far they had gotten, but that we're started this already. Hopefully, it's done in the next few weeks. Preferably, it's done by at least free agency. That way, you go into free agency knowing how much money you can spend, and you can start, structuring contracts that kind of a way. But yeah, so it's mirroring the same thing that Kyle has said about Brock. As long as he's the head coach of the Niners, he wants Brock here. And then obviously, as for right now, Jed wants to have Brock here for a long, long time. And but then it's also contradicts itself a little bit in the fact that now there's reports that uh, the 49ers are only willing to give Brock maybe like a 3-year deal, which again correlates to the time frame of maybe like say something goes wrong and we get rid of Lynch and Shanahan. A new regime is going to want to come in here and have their own um, their own quarterback. Maybe they won't want Brock. Maybe they want to pick somebody up in the draft. So again, we'll see. But again, in those, for as far as it goes with Brock, it goes right with the whole thing when I just talked about with Jed not spending money. People don't think Brock's going to get paid. I'm sorry, people. The minimum Brock's more than likely going to get paid is $55 million. I'm sorry. It's whether you like Brock or not. That is the fair market price for a quarterback of his caliber right now. Quarterbacks are in a league of their own. That's why they've talked about having a quarterback specific cap because their salaries are just ridiculous. So I mean, he's going to get paid. Like I said, I think it's going to be anywhere between about 55 and 60 million dollars. And then we'll see what happens as far as on the length part of it's going to be interesting. Like I said, everybody says they want him around, but they're also looking at maybe offering him a 3-year deal. So we'll see. All right, as far as rebuilding this line, since 2020, the only people we have drafted for this defensive line has been Robert Beal, Kalia Davis, Drake Jackson, Javon Kinlaw. None of those names really stand out, do they? And on a defensive system, the wide nine that's predicated on getting pressure with your front four, that being your only draft picks is kind of sad. Honestly, it's pathetic. Because again, the wide nine is absolutely, you need 4 studs up front. That way you're not blitzing everybody. Everybody else is back in coverage. But if you're not willing to invest, we've brought in broken players, secondary people who, they come in to relieve those guys for a few plays. All we've done is bring in guys who are just secondary. Javon Kinlaw came in hurt. Drake Jackson wasn't a natural fit. We need, again, as this says, the priority on this team to get good needs to be rebuild the defensive line. And I mean rebuild it heavily. Like I said, we got a couple guys up here. We've got obviously the crown jewel is going to be getting Myles Garrett. Khalil Davis is out there. Calais Campbell is out there. Yes, those 2 guys are on the elder side of things. But if you pair them up with a couple of young, hungry studs for another year or two, and especially Calais Campbell. Calais Campbell has been good for like 20 years in the NFL. Why wouldn't you want him around in your locker room teaching your new young guys how to take care of themselves, how to be a pro, how to play football, all those things that you want from your young players? You want someone like Calais Campbell. So whether or not you draft a Walter Nolan, a Deontay Walker, JT Talamalu, any of those kind of guys, you want somebody else to pair them with. Yes, you're definitely going to sprinkle in some other guys here and there. Like obviously we still can get Sam Okwanu, Khalil Davis is still around, Kalia Davis is still here. Who else do we got still left over there? I'm missing a name. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Evan Anderson. That's crazy because that's one of my big names from last year. Evan Anderson. You got to get these guys more help. You know what I mean? We need that. You get Bosa on one end, and whether you get someone like Calais Campbell that can just stuff the middle. Myles Garrett, who goes wherever the hell Myles Garrett wants. You need to rebuild this defensive line. Look at what happened in the Super Bowl. That defensive line did not blitz at all from Nick Fangio and just absolutely held Patrick Mahomes in check all day long. But like I said, you've watched our defensive line has been absolutely pathetic the last year and a half. There's much talent there. We have Bosa, and then the talent we either have is just way too young or way too old and mid tier. We need top tier defensive line talent, and then everything else falls into place. All right. I mean, that's honestly, I could go on and on and on. Defensive line this, defensive line that. To me, I'm going to beat that to death until the draft, and we'll see what happens. But to end this on a little bit, we have George Kittle. What job after finishing football in the ring with Penta. As those of you don't know, his mask and all that, what he does is first down. All predicated from Penta, who is arguably, he's probably the second best door wrestler of all time behind Randy Springer Jr. So he's a big fan of Penta. They've gotten pretty good as friends over the years, so he's having his friends and working there. At some point, Kittle's going to be in WWE. And I don't mean just like, he's done before with Grand Clothesline and Liz. He's doing this. I mean, he's going to be doing something that he's going to have actually sometime in the future. And I'm here for it. I think he'd be great. More than likely, I don't see the Niners allowing him to do that because obviously you can get injured doing that. But I mean, if he retires, we win the Super Bowl next year in February. More than likely, in a couple of weeks after that, when WrestleMania comes out, in a couple months, in like April, usually when WrestleMania is, he'll be a WrestleMania wrestling kind of thing. So whenever he retires, that next WrestleMania, expect Kittle to be there. All right, everybody. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me here, the Captain and Coffee Morning Show. This show has gone better, way better than I thought it would go better when I first started here on TikTok and YouTube a few months ago. And I also like to thank the people over at Goat Fuel, Jerry Rice and his team, for letting me be an affiliate of theirs. Please use the link down in the description to get yourself 10% off of your order for Goat Fuel. And it puts some money in my pocket, so it makes everybody happy. But again, thank you to those folks for letting me do that. I've got a couple other ones with it are probably in the pipeline. There might be a few other ones for you guys to take a look at. But for right now, order that Jerry Rice Tropical Berry Limited Edition Gold can. I know I'm going to get that. That's going to be one of my first purchases as soon as I start working again. All right, everybody. Don't forget, this afternoon, me and TJ will be on at 4:30 over on the Niner Faithful Radio side of things. And we'll be talking about, don't know yet. TJ never sent me what we're talking about today, but I'm sure it'll be something along the lines of what we've covered here today. So to get a different point of view and just to get all the numbers up to make us look better, show up today, again, Niner Faithful Radio. Until then, everybody, Fa Te Lava, one love.